Story 1. Trying to date idiots. Thank God they didn't actually like me back. Being mean to my parents sometimes. I wish I prioritized sleeping, healthy food, and fitness more also. Story 2. I was bullied as a young kid. Around 13 years old, I beat up another unpopular kid at the bus stop to make the popular kids like me more. I broke his glasses, and his parents came to confront my parents about it. There was a whole situation. Shockingly, my plan didn't work. I was still bullied some more, and I felt terrible about it for 10 years or so until I encountered that same guy as adults. I apologized and explained my bad reason from back then, but I still feel awful about it when I think back. Story 3. Still a teen, but not doing my homework. And people in school reading this, do your homework. It only takes 30 minutes to an hour to do it, and it's a lot better to just do your homework than fail a class, especially one you despise, because you're just going to have to do it again. Speaking from experience, I failed English last semester simply because I didn't do the work. Story 4. I regret not telling people that I love and cherish their friendship. I just recently found out a person I really cared for passed away. I wish I had been more open about my feelings. Story 5. I had a male cousin or friend who, in retrospect, was disturbed. The way he would talk about women was disturbing. He would make a lot of little jokes about various girls that bothered me as a girl, but I would just laugh them off. It was the way he talked about his own girlfriend that kind of ended the friendship. I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something like, "Ava is the perfect girl. She has daddy issues, so you have her under your thumb as long as you want her. She'll suffer for you. No matter how much you lie, no matter how much you hurt her, you can put her through hell, and she will still love you. She can't help it. All you have to do is tug at her heartstrings, and she'll take you right back. She's not even dumb. She just has poor taste in men." Ha ha ha. I tried to call him out. He laughed it off. After that, I distanced myself from him. Story 6. I wish I believed in myself enough to actually commit to my goals and dreams. I could have done them, it could have been real. Thanks for the bad voices in my head, Mom and Dad. Story 7. My best friend was a terrible person and a thief. He would break into people's houses and steal things. One day, a group of people tried to confront me because of his behavior, thinking it was me. I wish I never met him. He was troubled because his father used to beat him up. Advice for those still teenagers: you are who you surround yourself with. Story 8. Honestly, not being over the top enough. I acted like a 30-year-old woman at 13, which made me lose out on so much teenage stuff I wish I could have experienced back then. Oh, and self-harm too. Story 9. Being a bully. I grew up with a father who used violence instead of his voice. My greatest shame is punching down when I should have been punching up. Story 10. My lack of confidence. I had no idea how pretty I was. I was so socially awkward too, and my older sister was a social butterfly. Undiagnosed neurodiversity wasn't really recognized back in the early 1990s. Also, there was the joining of an extremist sect of a religion, getting married, and becoming pregnant too. Story 11. Not keeping friendships, not going out enough, staying at home too much, just wasting time on the computer, having a low self-esteem. I think there's still a lot for me to work on. Story 12. Choosing to go to art college instead of a job that brings in money. I also regret being too tame. I lived such a boring life. I wish I could go back and just be wild and get it out of my system. Story 13. I had strict helicopter parents and did not understand when I was 18 or 19 that I was an adult and had the power and authority to end their overbearing and controlling behavior until my mid-20s. I wish I had done it at 18, and my life would have been much better in my opinion. Story 14. I was still in the mindset of mom is mom, when in reality, I should have talked to my dad. I could have gone to live with him far earlier. I would have been more successful if I had. Story 15. The only thing I regret is not enjoying my youth. I could not wait to grow up. I dreamed about it so hard that my whole teenage years went by without much notice. I wished it away. Story 16. Talking to strange men online. Thinking I was overweight for so long. Now I am 50 pounds heavier and wishing I was still 120. Not enjoying more time with my mom before she got sick. Story 17. There's a boy that I really liked in high school. I fell really hard, but the relationship was so toxic that it affected my studies. It's the most cringeworthy part of my life, and I wish I hadn't made that kind of decision. I met another guy in college, and he was the best among all the guys I've met. I married him after 7 years and wished that I had met him instead of the other guy, so I didn't waste those years being foolish. Story 18. My parents got divorced in my 8th grade year, and my dad married his affair partner during my freshman year. I was treated poorly and forced to watch a 3-year-old for 2 years before I moved out. I spent my entire high school experience feeling depressed and obsessed over how poorly I was treated and the non-existent relationship with my dad. I began drinking and didn't enjoy myself. My life as a teenager was ruined because I couldn't just move on. Don't get me wrong, I had 3 solid friends with whom I spent time and made the best of it. But if I could go back, I would have just let it go so I could be happy while I was still young instead of obsessing over something that was no fault of mine. Story 19. What don't I regret from my teenage years? If you look at your teenage years and think, I like who I was at that time, that's a really bad sign of who you are now. Story 20. Ankle injury. I haven't been the same since, and I now have scoliosis and terrible daily back and neck pain. Tried physical therapy for years, but they seem to have made it worse in my opinion. Story 21. Just focusing on studying and not actively participating in other activities, especially dating, should have gone out more and explored the world. I wanted to, but my parents always restricted me, believing it was best for me, which I don't completely disagree with. But that messed up my confidence in social situations, more precisely asking girls out. I am still single for that reason. Story 22. Smoking so much weed. I did a lot of drugs through my teen years and 20s and had some amazing times, but weed was the one that gave me a how-to guide on fixating on negative thoughts, which I never truly think I've been able to shake even into my 30s. I spent a lot of time with a very toxic group of friends around that time of my life too, which definitely didn't help. I wouldn't say I fully regret it, but if I could go back, I would definitely tell myself to put the same amount of time into something more productive. Story 23. Surrounding myself with people who did harmful things to others, such as vandalism and bullying, and caring way too much about what others thought of me. Be careful who you surround yourself with. Story 24. Picking my college based on wanting to be close to my boyfriend. We went to different schools, but only a highway exit apart so that we could hang out easily and even find an off-campus apartment somewhere in the middle. Like 99% of high school relationships, we broke up the summer after graduation, but I was stuck with my college pick. Story 25. Did not ask out my high school crush in time, and she was gone during my last few days. She probably was not the one looking back, but I still wish I had tried, especially since I am 90% sure it was mutual. Story 26. Calling this one guy I used to like an asshole out loud at gym class because I thought the people he befriended were try-hard douchebags. I was talking to my friends, but I said it so loud he looked at me disappointed. I've seen him around town since we graduated and he looks miserable. I feel bad and I think I ruined his life by saying that. Story 27. Going to university at 17 with a late birthday, dropping out 3 months in, and wasting the $12,000 that I saved up throughout my whole high school career on just 1 semester. Story 28. I regret obsessing over people in a romantic sense when it just led me into the most toxic relationships that followed me out of high school. It kept me from focusing on career development, which definitely would have been a better use of time. Story 29. I regret letting the opinions of others matter to me because I could have saved my adult self from so many years of depression, anxiety, body dysmorphia, and eating disorders. Story 30. Not trusting adults. I got myself into some pretty sticky situations and always felt I had to go through it alone. I could have avoided a lot of trauma by asking parents, mentors, teachers, and others for help. Story 31. I regret going back to Georgia for college. I should have gone to College of Charleston or American University. I got accepted to both. I just felt guilty for being away from home for so long. Oh well. Story 32. Being sad and mad at myself because I was not pretty. I avoided a lot of events and plans because I am not pretty, I will just lock myself away from the world. Like, only if you are pretty do you deserve good things. Story 33. Teaching people how to treat me. I'm 32. I have been a passive actor in my life because of chemical problems and trauma since I was 5. Because of how difficult everything was, any type of minuscule positive attention I got, I used it as an excuse to let and keep people in my life who have made things so much worse. They have taken and taken, and I'm at a point where I'm a husk. And it sucks because I've had thousands of people who were not part of my close circle who would have moved heaven and earth for me. I could have been taking high school classes when I went to 5th grade, but my mom ruined that for me. I could have gone to college when I finished 10th grade, but my mom ruined that for me. I got into 2 Ivy League schools and all 6 other schools I applied to, which were all in the top 100 in the nation, and again, it got taken away from me. Even as recent as last year, I had an opportunity in one of the most prestigious writing programs in the country, and I chose to stay home and work for people who have never given me my proper place as a human, never mind the type of relationship we had. It took me 13 years to get a degree I could have finished in 3. And then, I graduated in 2023 and got a job within a month, which in this market is unheard of. That I actually love doing because I'm giving back to the communities I'm from. Low-income, first-generation high school students. And I can do good in this world and not feel inadequate because I'm not Martin Luther King Jr. or Mahatma Gandhi. And it wasn't stressful, so I could come home and work on writing or music and still be paid well. But I allowed people to take that from me by letting them make their problems my own. And again, I did it because I wanted to keep them in my life. It wasn't worth it. I feel like I don't know who I am, but I hate who I've become. They've broken me. So if I could go back, I would not fight the arrogance that gave so much dysphoria and anxiety because I saw it in others who weren't good people. If I could do it again, I would be the biggest and most arrogant person the universe has known because even though I've had them multiple times, opportunities like these for people like me are nearly impossible to come around. Threw away a future that guaranteed me success because I wanted to share that with some people I thought wanted me in their lives as much as I wanted them in mine. But I was wrong. And I'm so overwhelmed with my chemical and personal problems at this point, the medications aren't working, and I can only think of the next 30 seconds just to make sure I make it every day. Such is life. But if I could go back, yeah. Story 34. Trying those painkillers really messed up my life and chances to make something better of it. I'll still make it, but wow, it did place some tall mountains to climb in the path. Story 35. On the one hand, I don't have any regrets. I did what I needed to do to get out of my rural Central Florida town without any help from my somewhat crazy family. I graduated with honors and got a full scholarship to college. On the other hand, I listened way too much to my dad. I held on to what he said like it was going to support me in my life, even while intellectually and logically disagreeing with him. I would disagree with him in my conscious mind and then do exactly what he said. One thing that he emphasized was that it was important to be well-rounded. I think that was one thing I didn't necessarily outright disagree with, and I truly tried to embody it. I was good at English and writing, but also took every science class our school offered. I was captain of a varsity sports team, but also was an all-star varsity choir student. Yes, I lettered in choir and swimming. I tutored middle school math, but also was a talented, award-winning visual artist. I was good at everything I tried. When it came time to choose something to do, I couldn't decide and genuinely thought it didn't matter. I thought my enjoyment was irrelevant and that I was good at everything anyway. I really wish I'd used high school to hone something, at least a little bit. I could have skipped one of the extracurricular activities and then focused a bit more on the thing I was truly passionate about, probably art. I can't even regret that too much. My dad was really difficult, and going against him would have been its own challenge. Part of the reason I was involved in all those extracurricular activities all the time was just to be away from home. Story 36. Procrastinating and hanging out with terrible people. Dang. Sometimes people need to accept that people are mean because they want to be. Back then, it was easier to know who not to trust. Story 37. Number 1 is not knowing or learning enough about higher education. I went to a for-profit school because I didn't know I could get an education in the arts at a state college. Number 2 is having been with one of my high school girlfriends for 6 years, into my young adulthood. I'm friends with all my exes on social media because I have respect and appreciation for them as people, and I generally choose quality people to be in relationships with, but she's my least liked by far. Story 38. Wasting it on drinking and smoking weed all the time. In my 30s, I still did so but much less and started to travel and became more ambitious. It's incredible how much I accomplished in 2 to 3 years in comparison to nearly a decade. Looking in hindsight, I realize I was depressed and lost, riding the American culture wave of partying and chasing women. Needless to say, it attracted the wrong kind of girls. Not to mention, I was lonely, so it also invited the wrong kind of friends who took advantage of my kindness. Fast forward to my 30s, and I distrust easily and have pushed away people who actually cared about me because I didn't know what real love was. I'm in a fight or flight mode still, but I'm pushing to change. It was an entire domino effect.